Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Adverbs Part 5, Adverbs of Degree. So, what is an adverb of degree? An adverb of degree, sometimes called a degree adverb, is generally used to indicate the degree or intensity of an adjective, an action, or another adverb. Let's take a look at these examples. In the first example, we have, it was unusually hot last night. Now, what we're doing is we're measuring how hot it was. Okay, it was unusually hot last night. So unusually, the adverb, is modifying the adjective hot. All right, it's measuring how intense it was last night. In the second example, I completely agree with your opinion about teachers. In this case, the adverb completely is modifying the verb agree. All right, it's measuring how much the person agreed with the other person's opinion. All right, in this case, it was absolute, right? Completely. And in the third example, we have, he worked very carefully on his homework. In this case, we have an adverb modifying another adverb, very and carefully. So how careful did he work? Well, he worked very carefully. We are describing how careful he worked. You got it? And also, pay attention to the placement. Adverbs of degree are almost always in front of the word that they modify. Okay, you can see how it works here with unusually is in front of hot, the adjective. Completely is in front of the verb, agree. And very is in front of carefully. Got it? Now let's look at the degrees of strength for these adverbs of degree, or if you want to call them degree adverbs. And there's two kinds. There's gradable and non-gradable. Let's talk about gradable degree adverbs first. Okay, these can be mild, medium, or strong in how they describe the intensity, degree, or extent of the word they modify. Let's take a look at our examples and we can see this. So in the first one, we have, my camera was a bit expensive. The degree of the expense here is very small. So it's mild. And if you look at the next example, which is, my camera was pretty expensive, we can see that the intensity is a little bit stronger than a bit. And then we have our final example, number 3. My camera was quite expensive. So you can see the 3 degrees of strength here. You see a bit expensive, which is mild, pretty expensive, which is medium, and quite expensive, which is strong. Got it? Now let's look at non-gradable degree adverbs. These adverbs describe an absolute state or degree of the word that they modify. All right, they're different. They're not gradable. So we can't measure them in degrees of strength. So, for example, Warren absolutely stole the money. This is an absolute state. He absolutely stole. We can't say he almost absolutely stole, all right? He 100% stole the money. And we see it again in our next example with, Pam is definitely attending the party tomorrow. Is there any doubt that she is going to attend the party? No. Anything definite is an absolute state. So it is non-gradable. Got it? Now let's look at degree adverbs with adjectives. So for example, in the first one, we have, he was slightly disappointed about his grade on his English test. The adjective here is disappointed. And this is a gradable adjective. So slightly disappointed is okay to use because we're talking about the degree to which he was disappointed. He was slightly disappointed. So this is probably mild, a mild use. And this is grammatically correct because we have a gradable degree adverb plus a gradable adjective. Now let's look at another example. It's completely impossible to win the lottery twice in a row. Here we have a non-gradable adverb and a non-gradable adjective. Is this grammatically correct? Well, first let's look at our non-gradable adjective, which is impossible. All right, you can't grade how impossible something is. You can either do it or it's impossible. You can't grade it. Completely is similar, right? You can't grade completely. Either you say, all right, I almost completely did something. No, you can't say that. So in this example, we have a non-gradable adverb modifying a non-gradable adjective. Is this grammatically correct? Yes, it is. They're used together to emphasize how strong the adjective impossible is. So if I say something is impossible, it's impossible. But when I say it's completely impossible, it emphasizes the intensity of this impossibility. You got it? So the grammar point that we should remember is that gradable degree adverbs modify gradable adjectives, and non-gradable degree adverbs modify non-gradable adjectives. However, be very careful. In informal speech or writing, many grammar rules are often misused for a variety of reasons. So you may come across gradable adverbs used with non-gradable adjectives, or non-gradable adverbs used with gradable adjectives. And that's just the way native speakers speak and write. Let's take a look at some examples and I'll try to explain it to you. Okay, in our first example, she was slightly devastated by the bad news. Now let's look at the adjective first. We have devastated. This is an absolute state of being. You can't be a little bit devastated, okay? You either are or you are not. And you can't be slightly devastated. Even though I can get an idea about this, but it's incorrect grammatically. I've heard people use this expression, and it's wrong. Will you hear native speakers using them like this? Absolutely. Just make sure that you use them in the correct way. Just like this example. She was entirely devastated by the bad news. This is a similar example to the one that I have already talked about, where there's a non-gradable adverb and a non-gradable adjective. And this is to emphasize how strong it is. And the same thing goes for our next example. Her car is absolutely small. Again, we have our non-gradable adverb absolutely, which is you can't change something that's absolute. It's either absolute or it's not. And small we can grade. We can grade how small something is. This is similar to the first example that I used to show you what was grammatically incorrect and how native speakers sometimes use the language like this. So make sure you use these words the correct way. Like this example, her car is a bit small. So the gradable adverb a bit is measuring how small her car is. It's modifying the gradable adjective small. Got it? Finally, let's talk about exceptions. Degree adverbs have exceptions such as really, fairly, pretty, and quite. And they can be used with both gradable and non-gradable adjectives. For example, the first one, he owns a really small car. We have the gradable adjective small and really. In our next example, we have, he owns a really tiny car. Now we have the non-gradable adjective tiny with really, and it works. He owns a really tiny car. All right, so with really, you can use it with both a gradable adjective or a non-gradable adjective, and it's okay. The same thing with the other ones that I mentioned here. Okay, that's all for this video. I would recommend that you watch this one more time. It's a little bit complicated, but definitely watch it again. Thanks again for subscribing, and remember what I always say, keep practicing. See you next time.